All right, thanks, Warren. My name is Stephen DiMonte. I'm on the digital portfolio, in the digital portfolio on the ID card experience team. And today I'll be talking about Project Lombok. So Project Lombok is a way that you can simplify data classes. So any models or domain objects that you're creating, you can do it quickly and consistently, and it'll just speed up your overall development time. So we use this a lot in the digital portfolio for any of our Java applications. All right, so first we're going to look at like what a data class usually looks like in Java when you're not using Lombok, and then we'll look at a Lombok example. I'll dive into a lot more later, and then why you should use Lombok, or at least my opinion on why you should use it.
Hey, Steven.
Yeah.
We're not seeing the presentation. We're seeing your dashboard view.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so yeah, then we'll look up how to set it up. Look at something called Lombok plugin. We'll look at a lot of different annotations, some logging annotations. There's a lot more annotations as well. So it's all about annotations. It's a Java annotation library that's gonna convert those annotations to compiled Java code instead of you having to write everything out. And then I'll also talk about how I use Lombok and how a lot of the digital portfolio tends to use Lombok. And I also have a little bit of a demo. It might be more of just code that if people have questions, I can just kind of write things out and explain some of the features. While I'm going along, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. We just ask that you mute yourself after. And all right, let's get it going. All right, so this I've shortened this for PowerPoint's sake. This would be 131 lines of code. This is just 5 fields here in this person class. And once we put a constructor, getters and setters, hash code equals toString, we get 131 lines of code. And so if you have a lot of different data objects to add, I mean, yeah, you have the IDE to help you, just generate those real quick, but Lombok can save you even more time. Okay, so this is what it looks like with Lombok. So we have an all args constructor. We have getter, so that applies getters on all these fields. Then there's setter, setters on all those fields, equals a hash code, and toString. You can even simplify that a little bit more with the add data annotation, and that gives you everything except for that all args constructor. With add data, you get getter, setter, required args constructor, which that one is for final fields, and then you get the equals and hash code and toString. So really quick.
So Steve, you get that. You don't have to do that specific declaration. Obviously, the getter and setters, but also the equals and toString methods. When you override those, you don't have to do that automatically.
Yeah, all 3 of these are equivalent.
Oh wow, cool.
131 lines of code in 16 lines. All right, so Lombok, it was named because there's an island called Lombok, and it's near the island of Java. So here's a picture here. You have Java on the left and Lombok on the right over here. So it's been around since 2009, actually. And it's had 3 to 5 updates per year since 2014. It's completely open source, and from what I hear, it's a pretty great community they have there. So yeah, it eliminates boilerplate code and focuses on what really matters. So if you have some custom methods in your data classes, those really stand out now. So if you need to add any other methods to do anything on your model, you don't have to dig around for them. You can see they're right there, and it ignores all that auto-generated things that you normally put. So it speeds up development because of that. It also creates consistent models. If you're doing that every time, you're always going to get the same output, and it's a lot easier to reproduce with just having those annotations. And it really just produces like clean data classes, and it's just easy to read, easy to understand what's going on. All right, so I'm from the digital portfolio. We use IntelliJ, we use Gradle. I didn't want to do that for you guys because those aren't the tools you guys use. So what I did was I got like a free trial of my Eclipse, got Maven in there, and I tried to set it up like any of you would set it up in one of your projects. And it definitely is different than IntelliJ.
And he got a test dummy to set it up too.
Yeah, even got Warren to try it out. Yeah. I wanted to see if my instructions were good, because I do have a repo that I'll be sharing at the end. It can kind of just walk you through how to set it up. It just kind of has some like sample code. So lines 9 through 16 are dependencies here. So we have Lombok we're bringing in. That's the latest version right there. It's also available on our Nexus repository. And then we have the compiler plugin, Maven compiler plugin that you probably have on all your applications. And then you have to add an annotation processor here so that your IDE understands that when I call getName, even though that method's not there, once it gets compiled, it will be there. So it kind of like, it's able to like look ahead and understand what Lombok's doing. This is some setup you have to do. This is part of the README and the repo that I have. Basically, you just have to get that Lombok jar. This is the setup for Eclipse. IntelliJ is a little bit different. But when you get the Lombok jar, you're gonna run this command, and then you get like an installer, and it's gonna be able to find your Eclipse IDE and then hook it up, and that's about all you have to do. And then it basically like runs as like a plugin for your IDE. And of course you have to add it in your Palm and all that. And then sometimes you have to like do a clean install. You might have to like restart your IDE to able to sync it, but then you should be able to write Lombok annotations, and your IDE will understand what you're doing. So I'm going to be making use of dlombok to just kind of compare like what are these annotations actually doing. So dlombok is a plugin that you can use to like what it says, dlombok, like convert those annotations to what that actual bytecode will look like. So that's how you add it. It's not really required if you're using it. I'm just using it for the sake of showing all of you how this works.
I'm sorry, did you have to download something for that?
You can just add it to your Palm. There's no like additional work other than that.
Okay.
You just have to get this Lombok Maven plugin, and then you add dlombok. So whenever you run Maven clean install, it's going to generate a bunch of sources in a dlombok folder, and it's basically your bytecode.
Okay. I just had one more thing. We keep bringing this up, and just if you do use it, IntelliJ, does anyone outside digital use IntelliJ? If you do, just so I guess it is everybody. Okay. All right, Steve.
I've seen people using IntelliJ outside of digital. I don't exactly know who or where, but I've shared screens with people and they had IntelliJ they were using. On Windows systems also.
I think it's mainly the PCF API guys that are using it.
That seems to be the case, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for IntelliJ, there's a plugin that you search for in IntelliJ. You have to download that and then enable annotation processing on your project, and then that's all you need to do. So you don't download the jar and do the installer. So it's a little bit different than Eclipse.
Okay.
So for anyone
I
doing
think
IntelliJ,
most people use Eclipse like we kind of thought, but
yeah.
I just wanted to see.
Yep. All right, so here's getter and setter. So on the bottom left, we have getter and setter on a class called hobby, the name and the description. So it's going to produce these 4 methods, 2 getters and 2 setters. And yep, that's what it looked like. Pretty simple. So there's add value, and that's how you produce a immutable data class. I actually just found out about this preparing for this presentation. So I never really used it before, but I can see how it's like really useful. It basically gives you everything that add data gives you that I showed in the previous slides, a couple slides back. It just doesn't give you the setter, because if you have an immutable class, you're not going to be using setters. It also applies final on see on the example on the right for this profession. I didn't put final for these fields, but it applied final for me to make it immutable. So it gives you an all args constructor and getter setter equals hashcode to string. Not the setter. Sorry. Yep. So that's that one. And then there's app builder. I really like this. I use this a lot. If you've ever used the builder pattern, sometimes it can be difficult to set up. In the past, I've used IntelliJ plugins that can auto-generate builders for you. With Lombok, it's super simple. This is like 79 lines of code, and like to the left, we have 7 lines. So it takes a lot to get a builder set up. But yeah, I mean, for those of you that aren't familiar with the builder pattern, instead of using constructor, you can just call address.city, pass in your city.state, and .street address. You can go in any order you want, so you don't have to like worry about which order is the constructor. So yeah, it's really nice and just produces great code. Really clean code.
It creates the static nested class and all that, and
yep.
Wow.
Yep, all that.
Holy cow.
All you need to add is app builder. You don't have to do this to builder thing. I'll explain that right now. I recently figured this out. I was doing some testing, and I wanted to use this like test data, but I just wanted to manipulate one field. But I really don't like using setters because of like state and side effects. And I've had like bad experiences in tests where I set one thing and everything breaks. So instead, you can use toBuilder, and what that does is it transforms like your address back into an address builder. Then you can like edit any fields that you had before, and then it produces a new object, so you don't have to worry about side effects. So yeah, it's pretty easy to add on to. And so lines 75 through 78 gets you the toBuilder. Any questions on this slide? Okay.
So, so the 2 codes that you're showing is actually the generation after execution, right? So
yeah.
Left is the actual code, and then right is the.
Yeah. So like when you use this, you're just going to see the code on the left. I'm just showing you what's like behind the scenes. So you won't really see this at all. I just want to be like transparent on what Lombok is doing for you. So when you open up address, the address class, all you'll see is this. But you'll be able to call any of these methods. So you can call, you can call .city, .state when you're interacting with a address builder.
But the generated code does not show up in your Java doc. And how do you debug?
Yeah, that is one of the downsides, and that's what a lot of people complain about. Is Java docs is an issue. There are ways around it. I saw a few things. I'm not going to go through that today, but I think they had that issue so much. I think the team figured out how to make that work, and I think that leverages Lombok. And then you're talking about debugging. Yeah, debugging is going to be pretty tough, but I mean, really, when are you ever debugging a getter or a setter? If you have any like complicated methods, you're going to have to put them in there yourself. But yeah, I mean, for me, I don't really see the debugging as a downside.
Right. Well, they don't have to put the annotations on the whole class. They can put on individual fields if they want to, and then leave one blank if they want to make a custom setter, for example.
Yeah, you can just put it on the fields. Yeah, so if you put it on the class, every field, you put it to individual fields, it will just apply it to that one field.
Steven, I have one question. If you need to add any JSON property, how do we set in the Lombok?
A JSON property, I would just put right above, like if I want to do a JSON property on city and call it like city name or something, I would put it right above it.
Okay, so we can add all the JSON format and anything on top of that, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, just as you normally would. I know some people put JSON properties on like getters and setters. You wouldn't be able to do that in this case.
Yeah, that was my question, because some of the model class we have to use specifically to do that. So it's, for example, ignore a JSON property, right? In a particular getter. So how do we do that then?
You can always just, if you have a situation like that and you can't find a way around it, you can always just have a getter there.
Okay.
Like if you have like one field that you just need a getter for, I mean, you can just do like you used to do it and just have a getter there and put it on there.
Yeah, Steven, I wonder if this might be helpful to people because, I use Lombok too, and I found that like a large majority of the use cases I have for it are just creating classes that are strictly data classes, right? So it's not like there's going to be business logic or whatnot there. So it's really convenient if I want to just like throw a lot of, data classes together, DAOs and whatnot, and not have to wrestle with the boilerplate. I just want to get over to, the business logic portion, which you could definitely use Lombok on that stuff too. But, I think a lot of the questions that I'm hearing are like trying to deal with edge cases you might come up with in sort of business logic stuff. So, whatever that's worth.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, Nick.
And just an FYI, Eclipse will generate getters and setters, probably IntelliJ does. So.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not about I pointed out at the beginning, like we have these like ID tools, but it's a lot of clicking and this you just type it out and it's done. That's it. Like it's more of a time saver that you can get to what really matters. Like Nick said, the business logic.
Well, the code's also a lot cleaner, so you're not scrolling through so much code.
Yeah, that's also
getter setter, trying to find something that's not a getter setter.
Right? Yeah. It'll stand out like this. If you have any custom methods, you'll see them right away. All right, so I'm going to move on from here. So this is a new one I discovered as well. This is @with. So this kind of works like ToBuilder. So if you have an object that you've already created, and then you call like dot with city, you can like change the city, and it produces a new object. So a little bit like that toBuilder, except for instead of returning a builder and then having to build it again, it just returns a new object. Yeah, for this one, I'm not sure about the efficiency of it. I haven't really used it too much, but I just want to throw it out there. And just like with a lot of these, you can put like @with on just one of these fields if you just want to use it for that one. So there's a lot of ways to like approach how you build your data classes. So I will at the end go through like what I normally do. But yeah, there's lots of different combinations you can throw together. Okay, and so I really like this one. This is logging annotations. So there's more than this that I've listed at the top. @log for J, SLF for J, and there's probably like 5 or 6 more. And they all pretty much do the same thing. They're just using different loggers. Yeah, and so on the right side, you get this. What you normally would do, you would call your logger factory, get your logger, and have it on your class. And then it always gives you this variable called log. So on the left side, I just add my annotation, and I can log away. So not a lot of code generated on this, but it's pretty efficient. So this is an example of something you do like on a non-data class. And I have a few other examples of that. But for the most part, Lombok is going to do better on data classes. And that's like its primary use. There's just like a lot of other like cool features they just wanted to add. Yeah, Warren?
And it picks up, yeah, I was just going to say, you just use the, I see it there, the log variable for the logger. It just defaults to that.
Yeah, so I usually use this SLF for J. So once you put that on, then you get log. You don't have to declare this variable. It gets declared for you.
Okay.
Okay, any questions here? Okay. So this is another thing I like to do. This is also like a non-data class example. So we have a person service, and it has a dependency of a person repository. So I like to use @required args constructor for easy dependency injection. So yeah, I mean I like this. It's great because like I just list all my dependencies as final that I'm going to inject in. And if I need a new one, I just add a new one, make it final. I don't have to go into the constructor and add it or anything like that. So you see on the right side, it generates a constructor for you, and it's only going to use those required fields. So anything marked final. If I didn't mark this as final, this wouldn't compile because there wouldn't be a constructor here. Yep, so like if I had another repository I needed to add in here or anything else, I would just add private final, my new dependency, and it would just generate another one for me. So I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so here's some other like random annotations they have. A lot of these I didn't know before I started like preparing to give this presentation. I just thought they were kind of interesting. Some of them I would like never use at all. I just kind of want to throw them out there. So I'm not really advocating to use any of these. I just want to let you know there's a lot of different features besides the ones I'm covering. And I'm not going to cover them all because honestly, they're not all very useful. The ones that I talked about before, super useful. Definitely use them. These ones are kind of like, do you really have to do that? It's like it's kind of overkill. So @sneaky throw. So normally when you have a checked exception, you have to declare that you're throwing it. That if you add this on a class, you don't have to declare that you're throwing a checked exception. So it like tricks out the compiler somehow. And I would probably never use this. It just seems kind of ridiculous, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I have an example of that, so I can show you. I can talk about that more later. And then there's at not null. So this one throws a null pointer exception if the field is null. This one might use. I mean, it's kind of like a fail fast. Like I really need this not to be null, and it's definitely not going to happen. So let's just throw a null pointer right now. I probably use like some like require not null from the object class or some other method. So probably wouldn't use this one as well, but it's out there. It's stable. Like these top two are stable. So they have like two different feature sets. They have stable features and experimental features. So this last one is experimental. It's at a utility class. So I mean, if you have a bunch of like public static methods, you can just put at utility class, and then like you don't have to name your method static, and then it puts a private default constructor so no one instantiates your utility class by accident or anything. This one, like, they have like, if you look at the features, they have like reasons on why it's experimental. They just didn't really see a use case for this. It's just something they did. But yeah, I probably won't be using this one either. But I just kind of want to throw out some like additional annotations. Okay, so how do I use Lombok, and a lot of my colleagues use Lombok? Is we add at data. You're almost always going to want that, either that or at value. So at data, I like to throw at builder in there. Recently, I've been using toBuilder a lot, so I just throw that in there as well. And then all args constructor, and then if you need it, no args constructor. So yeah, so usually any data class I build, I just throw all four of those on there. All right. So yeah, that's all I have for the slides. But I'll go through like some test scenarios, and if you have any questions, like I can just kind of.
Why do you throw all four of those on there? I mean, it looks like I don't know. Looks like you're creating a lot of extra, generating a lot of extra code that you're not going to use possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could argue like I don't need the all args constructor if I'm always using builders. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have a point. I mean, yeah, you should definitely look at like what you need and only use that. Yeah.
I think too, if I could throw another thing in here, Stephen, is like since we're using Spring does require, I can't remember now off the top of my head, it's either the no args or the all args. But it does require one of those to be there. Our Spring won't compile without one of those.
I don't think
it's no args.
Yeah, it's the no args.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Spring, but I think it's Jackson because we work with a lot of APIs. I think you need the no args and then like setters.
Yeah, it requires the no args for its beans. Its beans expect a no args constructor.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is how I use it. You can use it any way you want, whatever works best for you. Or you cannot use it. You could hate it. Like it's a tool you can use. If you like, just generate it all by yourself, by all means. I'm just sharing like a tool that we use that speeds up our development process and produces like cleaner code.
I will say it did take me a while to get into Lombok. I used to love the auto-generated stuff that the IDE would do for me, but I've been pairing with enough people using Lombok that I've gotten very accustomed to it, and now that's actually the first thing that I reach for now. But I understand the hesitation there. I think it's nice in some ways to be able to see the code that's running under the hood. So I did, but I've gotten used to it. So, I mean, I don't know what Steven's saying. You might try it, and if you don't like it, well, then, hey, you don't need to stick with it.
Well, the code it's producing is very uninteresting, like getters. Like, they're just generic getters. Field. This dot field equals field. I mean, it's very uninteresting to look at.
Right.
Yeah, we've used App Builder and Lombok on a couple of projects, and definitely it's like it's just a lot. It makes it so much cleaner to work on the project. So yeah, I definitely use both a lot.
There's
Steven,
my love.
you mentioned
SLFJ. I mean 4J. SLF 4J. Love that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's really nice. Yeah, so I'll kind of go through some of the examples that I went passed over before, I guess. I mean, these are some tests, just kind of like letting you know that like get genre is not there, but it really is there. Like this works. I'll run the test here. There. Yeah, toString. That's the way it does the toString, like most of the auto generation would do. Here's the toBuilder. You can do toBuilder, then like set a new title and a release date, and then get a new object back. The with genre just gives you that object right back. You can change the genre. And then this is non-null, so I marked one of these fields as non-null. I think, yeah, title. So when I build it, it throws a null pointer exception right away. And then, yeah, here's the sneaky throws. So this is an example I found. I guess when you do get bytes, you need to, declare this checked exception, unsupported encoding exception. But when I just put sneaky throws and then say which one, then it don't need it. But it's like you still have to write this all out. So it's, yeah. I don't know if like up the stack you can, because sometimes when you have one calling a checked something that throws a checked exception, you have to like declare it multiple times. I don't know if this like totally stops it. So maybe it's less code. But yeah, I don't know if I recommend this one. I just kind of want to throw it in there. And then logging, I just use this little logging util just to show that it really was getting logged. So I can get the message, and that's the thing I logged. Yeah, that's all I have for you. Any questions? Like I can I mean, we have a lot of time left. So
Did you tell them what width does?
yeah, so like I only put width on genre. So this one right here, I get my video game, then I do .width genre, and I want to change it to action, and it produces a new video game.
I was gonna say one thing that to verify that the methods are getting put in. If you in the My Eclipse IDE, if you show the outline view, it'll show you that all the getters, the equals, the hash, all those methods are in there. If you go to show view, yeah, outline.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty useful as well.
So I think somebody had a question about what width is doing, and like width is just doing a different style of builder, right? Isn't that what it's doing?
Yeah, I mean it's basically like setting a field, but like not on the actual object. It's setting a field and then giving you a new object back.
It's setting the
Yeah,
field.
you mentioned that you weren't sure of the efficiency of it. So does that mean you don't really use it much yet in your coding, or?
I just kind of found out about it. The thing that I'm kind of like concerned about with the efficiency is like the chaining it.
Or
So like if I do with console, it's giving me a new object, and then with the genre, it's giving me another object, like and another one and another one. So I think maybe if like you're using it with like a lot, I think you might just be polluting your like garbage collection.
right, who's responsible for garbage collection? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that's why I'm not really sure of it. I mean, it's a little quicker than TwoBuilder because with TwoBuilder, then you have to build again, but with this one, you don't. So, yeah, just like alternatives of each other.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Well,
So the with, it just creates the object with that one, I mean, with the whole object, but the one field's the only one set?
yeah, it's
Or did
basically
you
like
pass-
it's basically like a copy. It copies it, and then whichever field you want to change.
Oh, I got it.
This is a copy of this video game 2 object, but I'm just changing the console. So
Okay.
yeah, it's like a copy, and then you can alter a field or multiple fields. Well, one field at a time. That's why I think TwoBuilder is a little better. Because let me see TwoBuilder. With TwoBuilder, I can edit 2 fields at a time and then build a new object. Yep. So if there's no more questions, yeah.
I just had one more quick one.
Yeah.
You guys haven't done anything with the annotations. Like I thought at the beginning, and I probably misheard, you haven't written any of your own annotations or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I have written annotations for other things, but not for Lombok.
Okay.
I don't even know. I don't know. It's open source. You can always
Yeah.
you can always do that, but
I didn't think so, but I thought I had heard that at the beginning, and I was like, wow.
no. Nope. No, these are all Lombok. So yeah, you can look at all the stable features they have. They have vals and vars, so like so you don't have to worry about types.
I apologize. What is the toString? Does that give you a meaningful of the object? I think you showed it.
It looks it's right here on line 50. That's what it's gonna look like. It's your object, all your fields.
Okay, nice.
So just as meaningful as the one that you would generate. But I don't think there's any way to like edit it. If you want to edit it, you might as well just generate your own.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then that would override like. Yep. Yeah, so these are some of the features. It's not about talking about cleanup. That kind of works like a try with resources, where it makes sure that you close any of your resources at the end. I don't know if that's could be useful if you do a lot of that stuff. So you can take a look at that. Any of these, if you click on it, it gives you a lot more details, examples, tells you like how it looks, how it would look with vanilla Java, and then how you write here. So yeah. Yeah, so went through a bunch of those, and then there's experimentals, and like these have like reasons on like why it's experimental. Like some debate is whether it's common enough to count as boilerplate. This is that utility class I was talking about. Yep. Super Builder, I think I've had to use this. I don't. Sometimes when you have like, yeah, when you have like parent classes, it gets a little bit more complex. I don't really have a good example of that, and why not like have anything to explain that? But if you have some like models extending different models, you might run into a little trouble. But this is supposed to help you out.
Okay, cool. Does anyone have any more questions on this? This was great, Steve. Very good.
Thank you.